Welcome, everyone. We have a great guest today, Kevin Kraft, and we want to bring him in right now. Kevin, welcome to the show today. And
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me on.
absolutely. And Kevin, man, looking at your bio, you've done everything, I think. I mean, you're an author, you movies, and how did you get started in this? And what just tell us, it's just amazing. Tell us what you've been doing and what's going on now and everything like that.
Well, a little background. I've been a writer for since I was a kid, really. Always loved a great story and admired great storytellers. Everyone from my dad, who told us Bible stories, before bedtime, to my kindergarten school teacher, who was a great, we just picture books and everything. But I always admired great storytelling, and wanted from a very early age. I said, I wish, or I hope I can do something like that. I hope I can be a great storyteller one day. And so I started writing not long after kindergarten, actually, probably about 7, 8, 9 years old. I started writing my own stories, and my teachers and my classmates were always interested in what I was doing. That they apparently loved what they were reading. And so I kept writing, just kept writing and kept writing. It came very, very naturally to me. And that continued on until now, actually. Movie making is something that I was always interested in, because I watched TV and movies anyway, but I was always interested in how they were made, and always interested in that aspect of storytelling itself. And so from early age, I always had a vivid imagination about what I would do, if I had a camera or something. And I would devise stories, that I thought, well, I'll write, and then later on, maybe I'll make a movie. Movie making was so expensive, even when I was in high school, that it was almost out of reach. But I thought maybe someday, maybe I'll sell a book and I'll make it a movie or something. So,
Awesome.
yeah. And then came the advent of digital technology,
Mhm.
and that put movie making in the hands of the layman, and the everyday man, and I'm a benefactor of that. Started in movie making seriously about almost 15 years ago, working with some local directors and movie makers here on their films. Worked with Ty Jones on The Last Breath, which is I guess for all intents and purposes, it's a Christian horror film that I worked on, and worked with Jason P. Hunt on his films, The Apology Dance, which he did locally here. So I was working in front of, as an actor sometimes, and behind in the scenes as an assistant director, or a production assistant, or that kind of thing. Just learning how things are done. Studied and read and watched things on filmmaking, so I already knew how things were done, and I just wanted to work in that area. And so that brings us to my own movie making efforts. We formed a family company called TEK Productions about 15 years ago, which has since become Heaven's Wheel. And I run it with my wife and my 4 kids. We made some short films and entered some contests and everything. We won the 10 scary minutes short film contest they have every year, where we won that twice in a row. Wow. with my son producing these films. The first one was a kind of a comedy horror feature, horror short called A Peel of Thunder, about a killer banana peel. And then last year, I think it was last year, we entered another one called No Candy.
Yeah. Let's have that. Let me show that real quick here.
Okay.
Can I help you?
Sure.
No candy.
You said you had no treats. So, chick?
That's awesome, man. That's
That
awesome.
that was a lot of fun. That was a challenge because of the the time span we had to work on it was very, very short. We just kind of we were already in the midst of planning our first feature shoot, and we came with this idea. I was like, well, do we want to do this? Do we have time? Can we do it? And there was a lot of deliberation. We said, okay, let's try it.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge of that was doing it in one take. And
Wow.
that was something that I had suggested when it was the day we started shooting. And I thought, really to do this effectively, I said, I wonder if we can do this in one take. And that'd actually be pretty impressive to do it in one take and without all the cuts that would cover up any mistakes or anything. And we did it. I was impressed that we did it. And
That's awesome.
It was among the top 10 of the featured shorts of that particular contest. I can't remember what the name of the contest was. That wasn't 10 Scary Minutes, that was something else. But yeah, and then they commented on the thing. They did that in one take, So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
My oldest daughter starred, so that was always fun. And
that's cool.
My two youngest were the ghouls, and my oldest son was the cameraman and the co-director, and I was the primary director on
all
that.
in one take. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Who wrote it? Who wrote it?
My son and I wrote that. Yeah, we wrote that together.
Okay.
And so it was a real joint effort with that one. So
I bet. Oh man, that's really cool. So you mainly do what, like short films and that kind of thing? Is that
right now? Yeah. Well, I mean, we just do short films just because it's great practice getting behind the lens and finding out how we work together and everything. So, but we're getting ready to shoot our first feature.
Wow.
This spring we're gonna start rolling out principal photography on that. So we're excited about that.
Awesome. And so when you do that movie, is that going to be like, is it going to be on a platform, or how would that be released?
We're discussing that right now. How we went there. We have a number of options to it. We thought about maybe four-walling it just to get some viewer response and everything. Maybe at a festival or something.
Right.
But there are a number of platforms we can choose from. I've contacted I think PureFlix about what we wanted to do, and he said, "Hey, yeah, by all means, if you when you get it done, please let us see it. We'd love to be the first to consider it." So
that's awesome.
That's one platform.
Is that a horror one as well, or no?
I wouldn't call it horror. I'd call it a thriller. Suspense thriller. Yeah, it's based upon my novel MOMO, actually.
Okay, right. Yeah, let's talk about that. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
And you can get that one on Amazon and
Amazon. Yeah, all my books we can get on Amazon. But yeah, awesome. It's based on my book on MOMO, which was a screenplay years ago, and then we tried to get interest in making it as a motion picture then, but that just never quite took off. There was some bites, but nothing didn't actually take off. I think it's a matter of timing too, because during the interim, my family grew up, my kids grew up, and then my son wanted to get into filmmaking, and then he came to me and said, "Hey, mind if I take a stab at producing this?" And I said, "Go for it." Yeah. Maybe it needs some young blood behind it now.
Right.
And then so he's producing, and then he asked me to direct. We worked on refining the screenplay. And we trimmed it down because we're making it in house. It's just the family making it now. So we trimmed out a lot of stuff in it, and brought it down to just two actors, myself and my youngest son, who's co-starring with me. And then Tyler's producing. He's the cinematographer. He's the special effects guy. So we're getting the creature underway, because it's a creature feature. So it's a lot of fun. And everybody else has their departments that they're working in as well. So we're pretty excited about the endeavor, and I think it's going to be really, really good.
That's awesome. So your brand, is it mainly all the time going to be thrillers, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. There's a lot of my books have started out as screenplays, or vice versa. They start out as screenplays, and then I wrote them as books. So I always think with a cinematic mind even when I'm writing my novels. I think this would be a great movie. And so I'd like to see us do an action adventure like a Dobro the Bottlenecker, which is another one of my books.
Awesome. How many books do you have,
So,
Kevin?
I have
Currently?
right now. I have let's see, the three Dobro books, MOMO, and S. So right now I've got five that are actually available. I'm going to be re-releasing on some other books that I've self-published in the past, and then they just went out of print, or they just took, I left the platform. So we're going to be re-releasing some of those books this year. And I've got new books that I'm writing. I got a science fantasy I've just penned
Nice.
that I'm going to be releasing next year. So yeah, so it's a lot of different genres. It's hard to nail me down on a single genre. And that sometimes I even reinvent it.
So Kevin, how does that get you come up with an idea? Like, are you like sleeping in the middle of the night and you wake up and you say, oh, this, I need to do this, or excuse me, do you have to like, are you somewhere and you see something? How do you come up with an idea for a story?
Oh, in a number of ways. Sometimes it'll be, in many cases, it's an idea that I came up with when I was a kid and just now,
Wow.
fleshing it out and writing it out or something. So I've always had a really active imagination, vivid
I was gonna
imagination.
say, yeah.
There's
Wow.
never been a shortage of material for me to, I was this huge file in my head of ideas that
So that's
used.
literally a gift from God. That's
Uh,
literally a gift from God. Wow.
it is.
That
That's
is
one thing
awesome.
I'm really thankful for. So I could, I could be somewhere where I'm just sitting and doing nothing. I've been there. I've been actually in places like that when I was sick or ill or injured, where I just
Mhm.
can't do anything. But I'm never bored because I can always think about something. Something that an idea that I want to work on or that I want to write or something. So there's never a shortage of material for me to cultivate. So.
Now does this also do you try to target with your faith to reach out to unbelievers as well? Does that seem to have you come across that at all?
Sure. Yeah. My books, just because I write them, they are extensions of my sensibilities. They are extensions of my belief and my worldview and my faith. And so, but I don't. How do I put this? Many people write their material with a particular message or point in mind. I don't do that. What I usually do is I usually invent or create characters, usually Christian characters, and then I create these characters, and then I plug them in some sort of extraordinary situation to see how they react as believers. And so that's kind of that's kind
That's
of
a
how
yeah, that's
I approach my
yeah.
work. And that may take a little more explanation. I don't know, but
No, I know what you
that's
mean. Yeah, that's
but
definitely you planted a seed right there, right? Yeah,
yeah,
that's yeah.
yeah, and I found with the response from my readers is that I'll hear from non-believers who say, "Man, I'm not a believer or anything, but I get what you're saying, and I appreciate the way you said it."
Awesome.
The
Awesome.
any message comes organically through the reaction or the behavior of the characters in the stories. And that's the best way to get that message out, not by beating somebody over the head with the Bible and
Absolutely.
scripture and like that,
Right.
but let's see how a Christian reacts
Yep.
in this situation. Let's see how a Christian reacts if they encounter an incredible situation where they're being pursued by a monster.
Right.
Let's see how a Christian would react if
Yeah.
they are crippled or wounded in an assassination attempt and their entire family is wiped out, and then they have an opportunity to go after the guy that did that to them. How would a Christian react to that? So I'm always thinking
That's
about that. And
awesome.
yeah,
Because the non-believers are watching us, Kevin. They're watching,
yeah,
and they want to see how we react to things. That's a great way to do that.
exactly.
And that's you're attracting them and you're planting a seed. You're witnessing to them, man. Maybe you maybe not realize it, but you are, because you don't know down the road. It may build up their curiosity. They may seek more. You know what I mean? You just
Yeah,
never know. They may fall in love with one of your characters and say, "Hey, that character's a Christian," and how did they do that? How can I do that?
yeah, yeah,
Man, that is just awesome.
yeah. Thanks.
Really, really awesome.
Yeah, I think I've Momo is one that really evoked a lot of response from both Christians and non-Christians because the center of the story is a father and his son. and how they respond, and how, with each other, and, to respond to the situation of being trapped in this cabin, with this monster outside, and how do they deal with that? And that it's a discussion that they have throughout that entire process that people respond to. And I got a real long email from somebody that said, man, this made me think of my father, and everything, and my relationship with my son. And I'm like, wow, that is great. I never thought that it would, it'd have that kind of response.
Yeah.
But people respond, and it came about organically. It's like, again, it wasn't a beating you over the head with a message. It was, this is why these people do in this situation, and can you relate?
Yeah, you don't have to beat somebody over the head. Number one, I think it's a big turnoff. You know? And it's just all by example how you live the life that God wants you to live.
Exactly.
We all make mistakes.
Exactly.
Christians make mistakes. I sin every day. You sin every day. We all sin every day. It's just the only difference is we're forgiven, and we just have to share the message and tell people they can be forgiven too. And what a great way that you're doing that. That is just fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Oh man, I'm going to definitely be checking these books out. My wife's a reader too, so I'll tell her about it. And then,
great. Yeah, please do.
Absolutely.
Please do.
I'm going to put all this information in the show notes to get everybody to check you out.
Excellent.
So how did Kevin, being with the background now that you're doing with movies and that kind of thing, and that's a great ministry, sounds like it's growing. You must be heartbroken how you see Hollywood is today. You must be heartbroken how you see what it's turned out to be today. It's so corrupt. It's so evil. I believe the Lord is going to really expose Hollywood for what it is. You see it. I mean, you hear whistleblowers. Mm-hmm. That must really break your heart. It does me. It does.
It has. I studied, personally, I studied filmmaking in Hollywood for a lot of years. And then it's like when you get past the fascination of, movie making itself, and you get into the behind the scenes aspects of it, like how a movie came to be made,
Mm-hmm,
and there's a lot of awful things that have happened that, and that continue to happen, and it seems like just, little by little, God is drawing back that curtain and exposing a lot of, like I said, a lot of the corruption and the perversion and stuff. It's really sad. It's, it seems like these days, things coming out of Hollywood, it seems like they're trying to outdo one another in how crass, how corrupt, how pornographic, how anti-Christian, how evil one person can be over another. And it's like a virtue in some ways to them. It's like, let's see how bad we can be and see if we can get it out there among the general population and everything.
That's why I believe, Kevin, that's the Satan. That's what he's using. That's his part of his media is Hollywood.
Yeah, I think that it's ironic that he's called in the Bible the prince of the power of the air. It's like, I wonder if God meant airways when that was written. It's like it was, because it's like it seems with that's their medium, like the airways.
Yeah. And, that's how he gets his message across.
Exactly.
How he gets
but I think it's important that. I think one of the problems I think is that Christians had, at least briefly, abandoned TVs and motion pictures to the devil, to the world, and just said we don't want any part of it. When instead of seeing it as an opportunity to tell our stories, to tell our express our beliefs, which is what I always thought that it should be, And I think we're kind of playing catch up now, as far as the stories we tell and the quality of stories we tell. For a long time, Christian films were second and third rate films, and it was always embarrassing. It's like, and I always, even as a kid, when I go Youth for Christ meetings and I'd see some of the movies that were made, the best ones were like, I was always like, man, we could do better. Why don't we do better? It seems like they're more interested in getting the message than making a good movie with a message. Right. And so I thought for a long time, it's like, man, we got to do better. We got to be better. We got to give the world our best creative efforts.
And you will, Kevin, and you are doing that. God is using you, and I guarantee you, man, you ain't seen nothing yet what he's going to do with you.
Thanks. I
Guarantee it.
appreciate it. I appreciate it, and I'm excited, and I feel honored with with what God has given me as far as the opportunity to do what we're doing. And I honestly do believe. I think God is, and there are other creative people out there as well that I'm familiar with. I think will also
Mhm.
I'm part of a movement of Christian creatives who sees our job ahead of us is like, this is what we need to do. Then we need to get
Mhm.
good, great movies, excellent quality movies out there that express our worldview. And that's the mission of Heaven's Wheel is to create, biblically centered, films that express that view, in an excellent way. And so, so we're just, we're praying, and we just said, Lord, just guide us where you want us to go, and open the doors.
Do you have like where you take donations to help your company at this time? Do you have
We
anything like that?
haven't. We don't at this time. We've considered that maybe opening up our efforts to like crowdfunding or something like that.
Mhm.
That's an ongoing conversation. So we're certainly open to that
Okay.
if that's what the Lord wants us to do. Definitely.
Amen. Amen.
So
Amen.
yeah.
What have you ever come across this idea, Kevin? What if you had a conversation with someone who has such a great testimony that God did in their lives? Have you ever thought about writing about that story from someone or creating a movie? Have you ever come across that yet?
Yeah, I've met a few people with those kinds of stories. Haven't undertaken anything like that yet, but I have met people who's like, man, I'll give you a for instance, and this is probably more of a documentary type project, but I don't know if you remember the Christian group, the Imperials.
Hmm.
But I was a big fan of them, and I for years, for decades, and I thought, man, nobody's ever done a retrospective of the Imperials. I'm like, now that if there's one Christian group that deserves that, it's that with the history they've had, it's that. So that's something that I'd love to see done. But there are also people who just I just know they just lived extraordinary lives. Just everyday people. You think they're everyday people, but when you hear the story, you're like, wow,
Hmm.
really? God
Hmm.
brought you through that,
Hmm.
and I'd love to see their lives, depicted on the screen
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So I keep looking for those opportunities, and we'll see what God does. Right now, we're just doing fictional narratives, but who knows what the future holds?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I was just wondering because I know you probably come across a lot of people, and I'm sure you've heard a
Hmm.
lot of stories.
Indeed.
Even with my wife and I have our own personal life. Man, if we had time, I could share with you. It's like wow,
Oh, I'd love to
it's
hear it.
yeah. We'll have to meet sometime and talk about it. But
Let's do that.
um, what about there's one guy out in Hollywood. I think he's coming out with a second movie. Mel Gibson.
Hmm.
What are your feelings about him when he did The Passion of the Christ? What were your feelings about that?
I thought it was great. Um, yeah, it's one of those films. It's hard to say. I really enjoyed that film because it was depicted the crucifixion of Christ.
I
But
could only watch it once, man. I could only.
exactly my point.
It was too much for me.
Yeah,
I got so emotional, Kevin. I almost wanted to jump out of the seat in the theater and yell, "Quit beating on him!
yeah,
Stop it!" It
yeah.
was that real. It was that.
I can
Uh,
relate. That is a film that I can only watch once. It's not something I'd go out and watch again.
no.
It was just so heartrending.
Yes. Yeah.
But I thought as far as the film goes, I thought it was one of the best.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
was as realistic as you dare to get, and it kind of brought home the fact that this is what Jesus did, and you know
Mhm.
what, it was a lot worse
Yes.
in real life. So I was like, my goodness,
We can't. Yeah, we can't imagine what it would really
yeah,
like. Yeah,
yeah.
can't imagine. And my I got a block in my brain here. Who was the character that played Jesus in that movie? What was his name?
Uh, James Caviezel.
Yeah, have you heard the story? His testimony where he
Yeah.
experienced some of that pain
Hmm.
that Christ did, and he just
Hmm.
felt that God did that on purpose.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
what a testimony that guy
Yeah.
has too.
Yeah. That was incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredible. So
And my understanding, I think they're working on a sequel
a
to
sequel. Yeah.
yeah, to Resurrection. So that'll
Hmm.
be very
Very
interesting.
interested to see that. Yes.
Yeah, and Mel Gibson, I think he got blackballed from Hollywood. Didn't they give him a hard time about
They
that?
did. They did, yeah. They didn't want him to make it. I think he put his own money into it, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And I think he has his own company now, so he probably says,
Mhm.
I really don't need you anyway. And he's
Right.
just, wow.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. My hats off. Hats off to him for doing that. That was
absolutely.
a very
And,
brave thing to do.
and I heard, and that came out in 2004, and I heard that a lot of people got saved from that movie. A lot of
Wow.
people, yeah.
That's great.
So, you
That-
know, there you go. There's what God
Mhm.
does, you know.
That's right.
You know, if we just do what he says and listens, and, you know, wow. Just me, Kevin. I do this little teeny tiny podcast, and and it's God's platform. It's not mine.
Mm,
Meet a lot of
great.
people, people like you. You can help others, and I started this, just to make a long story short. It was back in July, and I did it I was frustrated with the sleeping Christian church and what's happened to our country, and
Mhm.
you know, where the church just seemed to that was my calling, where the church just seemed to let the country just go aside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
No,
so,
I-
so we all have our calling from God. It's just a matter of, you know, just keep contact with him and what he wants us to do.
right.
You know,
That's
it's
right.
just, wow.
Amen.
That's incredible, man. Wow. That is just, so you literally lived out your dream since a kid.
Yeah.
Basically.
Not at the speed or at the,
Sure.
at the level that I still hope to, but definitely God has he gave me a vision early on, and he's led me in his time to where we're at. And so, yeah, I'm probably at the most creative than I've been in my life right now. And I'm enthusiastic and I'm excited, and I'm like, okay, God, you know, one of the keys for me to get to this place was when I finally got to the point where I said to myself, where the Lord drove home to me, you know, it's not about me, it's not about Kevin, it's about the Lord.
Amen.
You know, take my ego out of it, take my own ambition out of it, and just follow the Lord. And
Yeah.
the Lord says, okay, now I can work with you.
Yeah, and he opens up doors for you that you never thought would be
Exactly.
open. He sends people that cross your path in life that can help you, or you help them. You know,
Exactly.
and just me doing this little podcast thing, I met a lot of people already. You know, it's just incredible. You know, we stay contacted. You know, it's just because you never know. You know, you could help them, they could help you, and that kind of thing.
That's
So
right.
it's
That's
just
what it's all about, you know.
absolutely that's what it's all about, and that's what the Lord wants us to do. Yeah.
Amen.
Wow, that's you were saying like you didn't want it was later than you thought that you wanted to do this.
Yeah.
You think about it like this. That's what I do. That just wasn't your timing. God has the
Right.
perfect window for us when He wants to do it. I
Exactly.
mean, it may be the latter part of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And you know
it's true.
that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay.
Yeah, God's timing is always perfect. He may seem slow, but he's always on time.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, Lord. And then I have to remind myself, oh, you did it before. Of course you're going to do it again.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But, you know, and then it could be that, you know, he wants us to grow more when we're younger. Today's society, I think, is, you know, what the first thing they say to you when you're in elementary school? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And, you know, and that kind of thing. And I think that, you know, with society, they think like you need to do something right away when you're young. You need to you know, reach that goal. And that's not necessarily true. God uses people. I know a lot of people who are like in their seniors and they're doing stuff now. It doesn't mean it's the end, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm well into my 50s, and I'm just now starting to realize, you know, that dream, you know, and what I wanted to do, you know. So, and it's like, and it's perfect now, you know. Yeah, just in the situation that we're in, you know, I'm working with my family, and I'm not doing it on my own, and so it's I'm in it with my family, which is a team, you know, effort. So I don't feel like all the pressure's on me. You know?
Right. And then you find joy in that. It's so important to have that joy, you know.
Exactly.
And to have it's kind of like a business, like you said. It's kind of like you know your movie business. But you're totally, you know, it's God's business. You're working for Him, and it's just a whole different feeling, don't you think?
It is. It sure is. Yeah.
Wow. So do you have any new books that are going to be coming out soon, or are you still in the works of having ideas or?
Yeah, I've got a few things. I've got the fourth book in the Dobro series coming out in September, so I'm working on that now. I'm going to be re-releasing the first two books of the W3 Crew, which is like a series, an adventure series for upper middle schoolers, but adults love the books too. So I'm going to re-releasing those, and then writing a third one to complete that trilogy. And then I've got a science fantasy that I've actually, it's pretty much done now. I'm just going through the revision process that I'll be releasing probably next year, I'm thinking, although I'd love to do it before. But we're going to release that as a line of books for younger readers that we're going to be releasing probably by the end of the year, I think. So I've got some things I'm working on, and my wife and I I'm working with my wife and her sister on a book series, mysteries. So and I've got some bigger, more epic book projects for the next couple of years I'm going to be working on. That while I'm not working on movies.
Oh man! So you don't have writer's block, do you?
No, I really don't. That's my favorite thing. I'm stuffed up as a writer. I got so much stuff, so many things that I can write.
Wow, that's something to be thankful for.
More than I could ever write in my lifetime. But,
that's awesome. So do you, when you release a book, do you go to local bookstores near your area to get it promoted? Do you try to do that, or
no? I self-published through Amazon and Kindle.
Okay.
But I'm learning now. I'm learning ways to get my books into the libraries. Local bookstores is a little different. I'm still learning how to do that. How to
sure
about that. But I love to see them in some Christian bookstores and Barnes and Noble and everything. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
The bookstores are really kind of hard to find now because of Amazon. Even the Christian bookstores aren't around hardly anymore. They're hard to find too.
Which is sad.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Wow, man. This was such an exciting conversation. And I just thank you so much for coming on. And
thank you for having me on. It's great.
Oh man. And I'd love to have you back again if you when you get closer to your new releases and your movies and everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll certainly keep you updated on that.
Yeah. Keep me posted, man. That's really great. And I'll definitely be sharing this with everyone about you, because I know a lot of people that love to read Christians, information and stuff, and I know they would love to do that. My wife loves the mystery stuff and everything. So
great.
So, yeah, man. And any final thoughts? Could you give some advice of someone? Let's say they want to do what you want to do, and they don't know about doing it. They feel they have a gift of writing.
Yeah.
What advice could you give them?
I actually teach a course on how to begin writing a novel. I think if I could give one bit of advice to somebody like that, is to understand that writing a novel is a tremendous undertaking. It's nothing that happens easy. Even for those of us who are gifted to do it, it's not easy. Mm-hmm. So understand first that it takes a lot of work, and then if you understand that and that's what you feel driven to do, realize that you can do it, and that there is a way to do it, and find out how to do that. Wow,
that's great advice. Great advice.
Thanks.
Man, thanks for coming on today, man. And God bless
pleasure,
you.
Sir.
I'm going to be praying for your ministry, and it's going to grow. It's going to grow. It's going to grow. Don't hang up on me. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody, and we're going to talk real quick. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
All righty. All right, guys. It was great having Kevin Kraft on. What a wonderful guy. We'll look at the show notes and check out his book, his movies. What a gifted guy he is. And we thank him for coming on. You all have a great day, and God bless you.